The moment the former Fort Worth police officer learned his fate about 25 minutes ago. Why did they pull this jury in particular, Rebecca?
Well, typically that is at the request of one of the attorneys, suspecting that the defense attorney asked for that because they want to know this has to be a unanimous verdict, and they poll each and every one of those jurors to make sure that this is your vote. You were not intimidated in any way, that this is how you feel. And so they typically, one side or the other, depending on if it's guilty or not guilty, will ask the jury to be polled to see what that is, in fact, their final verdict. And in this case, they all said yes. And now we begin the punishment phase, Cynthia.
And so now he faces between 2 to 20 years. Any idea of how many years he might get? Any guess, Rebecca?
Well, I mean, if we were just to look at the history of what has happened in Dallas County, those officers that have been convicted of murder in on-duty shootings have gotten anywhere from 10 to 15. We mentioned Amber Geiger that got 10 years for the murder of both of them. Roy Oliver, who received 15 years for the murder of Jordan Edwards, and in this case, he faces 2 to 20. We were told just a little while ago, we weren't told, we actually saw Aaron Dean's family being taken out around the back. I can only imagine that they're just as emotional as Atatiana-Jefferson's family. They are still inside the courtroom. And now they begin talking to them about their testimony, because I do suspect, Cynthia, that you are going to hear from some of those family members on both sides as they tried to put a face on Atatiana-Jefferson during the punishment phase. Who was she? And we heard some of that during the guilt innocence, but they're going to say, look, this woman was studying to be a doctor. She was an aunt. She loved her family. She was a sister. She had a whole life ahead of her. And so you need to sentence him accordingly and give him the maximum that you can give him, and that is 20 years. That's what the prosecution is going to be asking for. The defense attorney is going to say, look, this was an officer. He was on duty. He also has his life ahead of him. He's got family, and they will bring some of those character witnesses, hoping to get a 2-year sentence, or the least amount of years that they can get for Aaron Dean. But we have seen the jury in both the Dallas County cases that we have recently covered, really give somewhat of a light sentence, considering that both Amber Geiger and Roy Oliver could have received life sentences, and they basically gave them 10 or 15. So it obviously will fall somewhere between 2 to 20 years. And again, Cynthia, just very emotional here at the courthouse for everyone involved.
All right, our thanks to you, Rebecca Lopez, live in Fort Worth.